Hi everyone, Paul Ward here. Synthfest 2020. It's a shame we won't all get to meet this year, but we're all doing what we can, and I thought I'd create this little video as an answer to one of the most common questions that I get, certainly when I play live, when I do my solo improvs, and when I'm working with other artists. But also I get it happen quite a lot on some of the forums that I attend. So I thought it was about time to address some of this. Now this is just my live rig. I must be absolutely clear about this. I am not saying everyone should do it this way. That's not the reason of this. But if anyone's curious as to how I do it, I will show you how I do it. And I have my own combination of software and hardware and controllers and all the other kind of goodie bits that go together to enable me to perform some of this music live. But it's not the only way. I am PC based, I am Windows based. I reluctantly have an iPad. I'm not a huge fan, but I have an iPad and I make use of that to do what I do. And I have a few pedals and controllers on the floor that control a lot of these things that you're about to see. But I'm going to try and keep it relatively simple and as generic as I can. In other words, I'm not going to get into the details of how I created a lot of this. But what I will do is just show a little bit about the thought that I put into it and how my system works and why I did it the way that I did. So let's get into it. On this first screen, you'll see this is the screen of a piece of software called Cantabile. I apologise if I occasionally call it Cantabile. Amongst me and my friends, we just use the short form of Cantabile a lot of the time. So if I do mispronounce it, I apologise in advance. I'll try and stick to the real name, which is Cantabile. So this is a view of Cantabile. Don't get too bogged down as to what all these lines mean and everything. I think that there are a couple of important features here. Here is a timeline which contains a backing track for this particular song, which I've chosen as an example. And here are some states within this song, states being sections of the song in this instance. That I have a state that sets things up for the intro of the song, I have a state that sets things up for the main part, and a state for the end. So it's a very simple song, as you can see. I have the backing track which is going to run, and at certain points in that backing track I am going to want certain events to happen. Maybe I want the mix to change, or I want presets to change, or whatever. So I have in Cantabile speak, I have some bindings set up, and I'll briefly show some of the background bindings in here. Now, what background bindings are? They are bindings that are set for every single song. They are always in the background in Cantabile. They are always functioning. And typically in there you'd have things like transport control, play, stop, whatever. So we'll quickly look at the background rack, but I'm not going to go into huge details in here. Suffice it to say, I have in here the ability to control transport, the ability to control the stage mic for talking to the audience. That the stage mic will automatically switch itself on and off between songs. I've got commands that are going to a hardware mixer, in my case a Behringer XR18, although it's not connected at the moment, so we won't get too into that. Here's some of my states and songs. Again, I'm not gonna go through all this. And here's some of my basic controls for. As you can see, these have got crosses on. These are not active, but I've got some controllers that control play and stop of the transport. It's primarily for the backing tracks. So that's the background rack. I've also got bindings for this individual song, and in this individual song I've got bindings that set a few things up when the song loads. You can see their song on load, and it's sending scribble strip messages to my Behringer X Touch, so I can see which instruments are on each channel of my virtual mixer. and it's setting up things like the base setting of my filter cutoff for a controller for one of the synths. Again, not going to get into massive detail, suffice it to say that I can do that. This one is a cute little one, and what this does is when my media players are active, when they are playing, they will change colour, and I can show that. So if I start playback, you can see I have a media player here that's playing the main backing track rhythm and a few sequences and things, and I think this one plays some sound effects at various points. So I've got two media players, so when I hit play, you can see they change colour. It's just a visual cue for me, it just helps me to know where I am. It's really all there is to it. And other bindings I can set my sustain pedal to start and stop the backing, and probably of more interest is these timeline events here. And what these timeline events are here to do is really just to choose these states at the appropriate point in that backing track. So if I start playback again, you can see the playback counter is going, we can see the playback mark, and we can see that at the moment I'm in the state called intro. So I'll force it on. I'll force it on a little. And when we cross bar 43, which is what this is set to, you will see that we change to the state called main. Now that change of state, it's probably changes to mix levels. It may mute instruments or fade out instruments that I've been using during the intro section. And it will also change patches for me in background as well. So I don't need to do any patch changes. All I need to do is hit play and just hit the keys, hopefully at the right time. Towards the end, we've got another position, another timeline event here at bar 170, and I'll try and take it roughly down to there. And at that point, we should see, as we cross bar 170, we go to a state of end. And I think that loads some mellotron sounds up or something at that point. Don't exactly remember, but it doesn't matter because the machine's taking care of that for me. So that's all happening automatically in the background. There's very little on stage that I need to concern myself with, but I will cover one aspect that I've found extremely useful. That's quite a lifesaver for me, and that's this little fellow here that I've generated called cues. Now I'll just shut some of these down to create some space, and I'll talk about these cues. And you can see these are all bound to transport positions. So I've got one here that kicks off if I'm at bar 40 to bar 42, bar 40, 42, beat 1. And it's sending out controller information. And what that controller information exists to do is, the clue is on this second screen, which will show you my iPad. And here's my iPad, and you can see it's 4 little buttons down here. 1, 2, 3 and 4. I will start playback and I'll get it again roughly to about bar 40, and you'll see what those controllers do. Here we go. 4. I think that's the screen refresh rate that's not working quite as well as I'd hope, because I'm mirroring my iPad. But essentially, I get 4 lights that come on. 4, 3, 2, 1. Essentially, it's giving me a countdown to the point where I'm going to start playing. This is really, for my own music, it wouldn't be so critical. But when I'm working with other artists, I'm not always as familiar with their music. So in some instances, a little hint with these cue lights is very, very helpful. You can also see in my iPad, all of these settings are reflecting the virtual mixer that I've got set up in Cantabile, and I can move any of these in real time, and it will alter the settings in Cantabile. If I flip back to the other screen, here's my virtual mixer, and here we go. You can see I'm just moving one of the faders on my iPad, Alternative, I can actually move one of the faders on my Behringer X-Touch, and that's doing exactly the same thing. So I've got a physical controller, and I can use the iPad. Either is fine. During rehearsals, I'll often use the Behringer X-Touch just because it's something easy to reach out and just manipulate the mix as I'm going along, particularly if I'm mixing other band members' audio in as well. But on stage, I'll really just use the iPad. I'm not interested in performing a mix on stage. All I'm really interested in is, are things going the way they should do, so I can see that on the iPad. If I go back to the iPad screen, I'll show you my control screen. This is where I will, if I'm going to do anything on stage in terms of hitting buttons on the iPad, this is where it will happen. So I can start playback of the backing track from here, and I can stop it from here as well. You'll notice here that's a clue to me that we're between songs and the talk mic is open when I'm playing a backing track. Now that's a clue to me that we are in play mode, the backing track is playing and the stage talk mic is switched off. I can override that if necessary, so I can tap that. So if the artist wants to rush back to the front of the stage and just explain which song we've just launched into, he can do that, and as long as I'm smart enough and quick enough to get to that button, I can do some override. I can also change states manually. Again, this is more for rehearsal, but if I want to go into the main state, this is my intro state. If I want to go into the main state, I can jump into that manually. I can change song as well, which I'm not going to do. I want to stay in this example song. So I'll flip back to Cantabile. So we've seen the mixer and we've seen the timeline. Really, essentially, that's all there is to it. It probably looks a lot more complex than it is. If it was really complex, believe me, I wouldn't use it. I want simplicity when I'm on stage. I want everything to be as easy as possible, and this system does that for me. All I need to do is hit the black and white notes in vaguely the right order at vaguely the right time, and usually I can manage to do that most of the time. Anyway, I'll sign off at that point. Hope that was of interest and of use to somebody out there. Please let me know. I'd love the feedback. Was it useful? Was it interesting? Is there anything in there that's a surprise? Is there anything that I didn't cover you desperately want to see or learn about? Just let me know. Okay, signing off. Bye.